Hello everyone, and welcome to English Lit 101. This week we will be discussing La Belle Dame sans Merci by John Keats. This video includes a reading of the poem as well as some explanations and analysis. So if you've got a paper due tomorrow that you're desperately trying to figure out, a test that you're trying to study for, or you just really like romantic era poetry, this video is for you. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, alone and palely loitering? The sedge has withered from the lake, and no birds sing. Oh, what can ail thee, knight at arms, so haggard and so woe-begone? The squirrel's granary is full, and the harvest done. I see a lily on thy brow, with anguish moist in fever dew, and on thy cheeks a fading rose fast withereth too. I met a lady in the meads, full beautiful, a fairy's child. Her hair was long, her foot was light, and her eyes were wild. I made a garland for her head, and bracelets too, and fragrant zone. She looked at me as she did love, and made sweet moan. I set her on my pacing steed, and nothing else saw all day long, for sidelong would she bend and sing a fairy's song. She found me roots of relish sweet, and honey wild, and manna dew. And sure in language strange she said, I love thee true. She took me to her elfin grot, and there she wept and sighed full sore, and there I shut her wild, wild eyes with kisses four. And there she lulled me asleep, and there I dreamed, ah, woe betide, the latest dream I ever dreamt on the cold hillside. I saw pale kings and princes too, pale warriors, death pale were they all. They cried, La Belle Dame sans Merci, thee hath in thrall. I saw their starved lips in the gloam, with horrid warning gaped wide, and I awoke and found me here, on the cold hillside. And this is why I sojourn here, alone and palely loitering, though the sedge is withered from the lake, and no birds sing. All right. Wasn't that beautiful? Unless, that is, you have no idea what Keats was talking about, because then it was most likely just an extremely confusing mess for you. Well, not to worry if you're in that boat, because now we'll move on to the explanation and analysis of the poem. So, what is the poem about? Is there a deeper meaning? What about the more supernatural, fantastical elements? What are examples of essay topics based on this poem? These are the 4 points we're going to explore in the explanation and analysis of the poem. So, what is happening here? The poem is about a knight who is found beside a lake by a fairy. The plants by the lake are all shriveled up and dead. Nevertheless, the knight makes her a crown and bracelets out of those dead plants, and they get on his horse and spend the day alone together and kind of fall in love. The fairy confesses her love to the knight and takes him back to her realm. He saw many fantastical things while in her land, like pale kings and princes too, pale warriors who tell him that he has been taken prisoner by La Belle Dame sans Merci, which is French for the beautiful lady with no mercy. When he wakes again, he is back on the hillside near the lake. He now stands by the lake to remember her, because he cannot get her out of his head, as she has cast a sort of spell over him, and he is doomed to love her forever. So, is there a deeper meaning? Absolutely. Most poems either were meant to have that deeper meaning, or if they weren't, that meaning can be interpreted with evidence from the text. Despite the fact that the woman in this story is a magical fairy who can cast spells of a sort on a man, this is still a very relatable story in our modern times. Everyone has that one love who got away, that one person who they will always love no matter what, and despite all of the horrible things they've done to you, you still love them. The fairy represents that person, and the knight is meant to be the reader. He is feeling all of the emotions that people feel about lost love and the one who got away. He still spends his time near the lake, which was their spot, and he thinks of her constantly. The knight is heartbroken, but he is still in love with her because he always will be. It is a much more complex type of love than is seen in many other poems from the Romantic era. Yes, there is magic and fairies, but it is still very much a human love story when you look beyond that. Perhaps the fairy and the spell she has cast are representative of how the people in real life feel like their one who got away cast a type of spell on them. This is just one way to interpret the poem, of course. There are many others, but this is the one that is the most relatable and understandable from a modern point of view, at least in my opinion. What are some examples of essay topics based on this poem? Well, you could always explore the supernatural elements of the poem and of the Romantic era in general, as it was a fairly common theme throughout the period. You could also explore the idea of love and the Romantic era's portrayal of love to see if this poem is radically different than its peers. The other major essay topic here is exploring the role of women in Romantic era poetry, especially the role of the seductive temptress type, as seen in this poem with the fairy. There are many other things to write about based on this poem, but those are a few to get you started, and maybe spark a little idea of your own. If you liked this reading and dive into La Belle Dame sans Merci, then don't forget to subscribe, as I will be covering a lot more poems, plays, and short stories to help you with your academic career. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all do wonderfully on whatever it is you're studying for right now.